Welcome back. I know I went on a rampage on that last show. I got into talking about, for women, why we wind up having the wrong type of men in our lives because we don't love ourselves. We're still talking about love. Remember that key? First key we're talking about? I am talking about universal laws that govern life in the first key. I'm not going to get off this key until I feel a sense of relief, because love is important. All things work together because of love. It really does. And it's not always ushy-gushy, mooey, gooey love. Love has character to it. It says commitment. It says I'm enduring. It says come hell or high waters. We're walking through this together, okay? And when I say hell or high water, I'm talking about outside forces and elements. I'm not talking about, let's get real. I'm not talking about the ones who are beating on their wives. That's not love. If you are being beaten, women, by your spouse, you need to get out, because that is not love. And you are not loving yourself enough to get out of that circumstance or out of that situation so that you can have help. Find the nearest shelter. Get on the internet. Tell a friend. Tell a family member. Don't keep it a secret. That's not love. That is not love. That's not love. When I'm talking about going through hell and high waters together, you know how sometimes you have a trauma or a sickness or some kind of illness or something tragic happens in your family. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about going through hell and high waters in a marriage, in a relationship. But if the man is beating you, that is not love. Get out. Get out. It's not love. It is not. And you are not loving yourself. I've seen my mother over the years, especially when I was young, be beaten by men. And I'm writing my autobiography, so look for it. I'll tell you when it'll be coming out. It's called The Blessing and the Thorn. And I've seen my mother be beaten by men, especially in the 70s. In the 70s, my mother would be beaten by men, and then they would come back around and say, oh, I love you, and I'm sorry for doing this, and they keep right doing it again. Well, you know what? They didn't love themselves. They did not have love within themselves, because if the man loves himself, he's going to treat that woman right. He's going to love her. He's going to treat her right. He is not going to beat her. He's not. He's not going to beat her. But if you are in an abusive relationship, you need to get out. That's not good. And you need to just muster up this strength right here. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, use this strength right here that I'm sending across the airwaves to you. Just muster up enough of that strength. Pull on that. And you hear this woman saying, love yourself. Love yourself enough to say no and get out. There's so many places where you can get help for physical abuse. So I want you to, that's something I'm stressing on this particular tape. Physical, emotional, all those abuses. I'm talking about intentional. When I talk about emotional abuse, I know there's different levels and things like that. But when you have extreme levels of emotional abuse, that's not good either, ladies. You're not loving yourself. You're not loving yourself. And okay for the men who say, well, what about the women that beat the crap out of me? Well, you don't love yourself either, so you need to get out too. Get out. Get out. You of all people. Men normally have the strength and the physical makeup to get out of a situation. It's usually women who don't have the physical makeup. But I know nowadays some women are stronger than men. But nevertheless, I want you to know, if you've never heard anybody else love you, just the very fact that I'm telling you this, I am sending out enough love to you to tell you I don't want you to die in that situation. So many women are physically killed, or they wind up killing the spouse because they snapped and wind up in jail over domestic violence. So get out. Okay, love. Love says, I'm not going to injure you on purpose. You know, sometimes we can injure somebody and it hurt. Or you can hurt somebody's feelings by telling the truth. That's different. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about on-purpose abuse, such as physical, sexual, molestation, and, you know, especially nowadays, you have people who are on the internet and their sole purpose is to intrude other people's lives in a destructive way. And now our youth are targeted. Our children and youth are targeted. Raped. I just saw a program the other day where they were talking about an infant, a baby girl infant was raped by a man. That shows how much hatred he has for himself to rape that little girl. We have to get this love thing down, people, because if we don't get the love thing down, if we don't get that down, nothing else really matters. Because once you can get the love thing down, a whole lot of other things naturally come in place. A lot of those other laws that I'm going to talk about naturally come in place. Like I was saying before, the law of love is like that rod on a curtain, and you have these beautiful drapes that hangs on that rod. Well, that's the drapes are the rest of the laws, but that rod, in order to hold the rest of those laws up, is love. You have to have love in place. And the reason why I'm so pushing loving yourself is because we've heard, how many of you have gone to churches and you've heard, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your mind, your strength, and your soul. And then you've heard another scripture that says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, you have to love yourself. And I've been in churches for years. I have. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And we're taught to love God. But in loving God, which is taking time to spend with Him, have a relationship with Him, all those wonderful things, we should be getting, now love yourself, so that you can love other people. But we're not getting that, because I've heard people say, well, yeah, you're once a sinner, always a sinner. You're going to hell in a handbasket. You know, all those negative things. I've heard so many negative things to beat you down till there's that confusion and you don't really have the right connection enough to even receive the God kind of love and then act upon that love that's within you, which God is in you. So you have to activate that love within you by what? Doing what's right by you. And in return, you're going to do what's right to others. And so that signal is really mixed up. I'm going to talk about loving God. I just want to focus on you right now because we've heard that so many times. Most people in America has been to church. Many people in America have been to church. This is the most religious country. And yet, the most selfish. But love says, God has provided, He's taken care of me, and I love myself enough to take what He has provided, enjoy it, and then share it with you.